Good day, my grade 9 learners. So today, we are going to discuss a new lesson in mathematics. By the way, my name is Jonathan Grantos and I will be your teacher for today. But before we are going to start with our lesson, let's have first an online etiquette reminders. So what are you going to do? Number 1, be prepared and ready to learn. Have a designated work area that is set up with all the materials needed, probably not in bed. It is also important to continue with routines. Get up, have breakfast, brush teeth, get dressed, and then be ready to learn. Number 2, be prompt. Please be on time for any Zoom meeting. Arriving a couple minutes early is great too. Check your calendar the night before to make sure you know when your sessions are. Zoom offers instructions on how to join a Zoom meeting. Number 3, mute yourself. When you arrive, please be sure to mute yourself. If a teacher asks a question or if you have a question, then it is okay to unmute yourself. But please remember to go back on mute. Background noise and talking can be distracting. To mute yourself, click on the microphone icon on the video display. Next, refrain from using the chat feature. Please do not use the chat feature unless the teacher asks you to do so. When you are requested to use the chat feature, please only type comments that are relevant and appropriate. Please review your comments before sending and remember that tone and humor don't always translate online as they might in person. Number 5, be respectful. Please remember to be respectful at all times. Allow people the space to speak and do your best not to talk over another person. Please also think before speaking and make sure that your comments are on task and kind. Number 6, community-wide events. During community-wide Zoom or Messenger room, please remember to mute yourself and please do not use the chat. This is a time for us to come together as a community and connect. Number 7, take breaks. Be sure to take breaks and find offline activities to do as well. And lastly, find balance. When work on the computer is done, find the right balance for your family between online and offline time. Did I make myself clear? Okay. Are you ready? Let's have the first activity, which is entitled Arrange Me. What are you going to do is arrange the letters to form the word related to the figure. So I want you to use the chat box this time and type your answer if you know the answer, and then later I will review kung sino ang nakahatag sa correct answer and I will give you an additional point later on. Okay, so let's have the first picture. What do you call that red line on the picture? Okay, very good. That is what we call hypotenuse. And when we say hypotenuse, that is the longest side of a triangle. I will give later if what kind of triangle. Next, what do you call that red line on the picture? Okay, so we call that legs. Very good. So the other sides, aside from the hypotenuse, is what we call leg. Okay, next picture. Take a look at this symbol. What do you call that symbol? Very good. That is what we call square root. And when we say square root, we get the number or we multiply the number by itself and it gives a perfect square. For example, the square root of 81 is 9 because 9, if you multiply it by itself, will give you 81. Okay, take a look at that picture. Arrange the letters and what would be the correct answer? Correct. That is right triangle. And a right triangle consists of one right angle which measures 90 degrees. Okay, so what do you think is the purpose of these terms? We have the right triangle, hypotenuse, legs, and then square root. In our previous lesson, we discussed about the special right triangle, wherein we prove the right triangle similarity theorem. What if we have here the unknown, which is hypotenuse, or one leg? What theorem are we going to use? And that is our lesson for today, which is about Pythagorean theorem and its proof. Okay? So, at the end of the session, students should be able to, letter A, apply the Pythagorean theorem to find the missing hypotenuse of a triangle or to find the missing leg of a triangle. Letter B, justify if the given triangle is right using Pythagorean theorem. And lastly, appreciate the value of Pythagorean theorem in real life situation. Now, let's have the do, observe, explain Pythagorean puzzle. I want you to get all your materials, your paper, your bond paper, your colored paper, scissors, ruler, and your pencil. So, look at that puzzle. So, later on, you will able to understand why it is called Pythagorean puzzle. You have there already your 4 right triangles, which is congruent, meaning same measure ang imong 4 right triangles dira nga dinakaptan subong. And then we have the square, which is the smaller square. And I told you to cut it with a yellow square, I think. And then the darker square naman niya is color red. So I want you to follow the instructions. Number 1, you're going to cut off the small and medium squares, numbered 1 to 4 and 5. And I know that you have it already. And number 2, cut the medium square along the dotted lines. And lastly, you are going to try to arrange the pieces 1 to 5 inside the larger or the darker square. So I want you to take out first the first right triangle and label it with A, B, and C. Okay? Everybody? Do you have it now? Next, the second right triangle, I want you to put it like that. Wherein, ang side A is at the bottom, and then side B is ara naman siya sa right side. Follow? Next, the third triangle, I want you to put it like that. Wherein, ang side B naman is on top, and side A is on the right side. Done? Okay, next. Let's have the last triangle. I want you to put it like that. Wherein naman, si side A, ara naman siya sa babaw, and your side B is on the left side this time. Okay. Now, take a look at the figure. I want you to analyze the figure. What shape is formed? Anybody? Yes? Okay. You have seen there square, which is the big square and the smaller square inside. But how are you able to know that that is a square? I want you to justify that it is a square. What are the characteristics of our square, if you can still remember in our discussion last time about quadrilaterals? Very good. Since the 4 triangles are right triangle, meaning it has right angle, and the square now has 4 right angles, which is one of the characteristics of our square. Aside from the angle, what else? I told you yesterday to make a right triangle with the same measures. So meaning, aside from right angle, what else? Yes? Correct. The four sides are also congruent. Meaning, this side, B plus A, is equal to this side, which is also B plus A. Kag amuman sa other two sides. So, congruent sila. Meaning, this is a square. Do you understand? Let's proceed. Now, take a look at the letter C there, or the side C. What do we call that side? Correct, that is what we call hypotenuse. Since our right angle is the opposite niya is C, meaning that side is what we call hypotenuse, which is our longest side. Now, focus on the square inside the bigger square. The four sides has a label of C. Now, I want you to get its area. What do you think is the area of that square? Yes? Very good. C squared. We get the square of the sides of a square, diba? In getting the area. Now, I want you to get your red square and put it inside the bigger square and label it with C squared. Done? Okay. Next. Okay, so si number 4 right triangle, stay put sa iyang place. I want you to rotate the triangle number 3 and put it like this. So, ang B nga side, ara na siya sa right side. Ang A nga side, ara na siya sa bottom. Next, ang first triangle or number 1 triangle, stay put man siya gyapon sa iyang place. I want you to rotate the number 2 right triangle and put it like this. Si A nga side, ara na siya sa right side, and then ang B nga side, ara na siya sa babaw or on top. Done? Next, after that, I want you to slide the number 1 and number 2 right triangle. Slide to siya sa right side, and then focus on number 1 and number 3 side. Take a look at the A leg. Sa A leg, if we are going to make a square there, what would be the area of that square? Correct. That is A squared. So, I want you to get the smaller square and put it there and label A squared. I want you to make a blue square and label it with A squared. Next, you focus on number 2 and number 3 right triangle sa B leg ni number 2 kag B nga leg ni number 3. If we're going to make another square there, what will be the area of that square? Very good. It would be B squared. And I want you to get your yellow square and label it with the B squared. Now, take a look at the figure. What shape is formed? Another big square. We have the A squared and the B squared. So, a while ago, your red square, which is the hypotenuse, the area of it is C squared. So, if you are going to get it and put it to the square that was formed a while ago, ma-fit siya. No? So, your blue square, which is A squared, plus your yellow square, which is B squared, is equal to red square, which is C squared. And that is that explains your puzzle. Okay, so what can you conclude from this exercise? Anybody? Correct. That is your Pythagorean theorem that states that a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. Or the sum of the squares of your legs is equal to the square of your hypotenuse. Question. And our activity a while ago is the visual proof of the Pythagorean theorem. Next, let's have example number 1. We are going to solve for a missing hypotenuse. Remember that the hypotenuse is always the longest side and side opposite the right angle. Take a look at the figure. We have 8 feet, 15 feet, and x. As you can see there, the opposite of the right angle is your hypotenuse, which is x, the unknown. Now, I want you to note that 8 feet and 15 feet must be the lengths of the legs since they make up the right angle. That means that x in this case is the missing hypotenuse. Plugging those values into the Pythagorean formula yields the following. So substituting, a is 8, b is 15. So substitute a squared plus 15 squared is equal to x squared, which is your hypotenuse. Now, simplify. 8 squared is 64 plus 15 squared is 225 equals x squared. And add 64 plus 225, that will give you 289. And enable for us to get the value of x, we need to square root both sides. And getting the square root of x squared, that gives you x. And square root of 289 is 17. It means that the missing hypotenuse length is 17 feet. Question. So let's proceed to another example. Solving for a missing leg. What if leg naman ang unknown? First, note that it makes no difference which leg we label as A and which leg we label as B. It doesn't matter. So take a look at the given figure. We have 12 inches given of one leg. A is another leg that is unknown, and our hypotenuse is 13 inches. Now, given the fact that this is a right triangle, we can solve for the missing leg length, A. Just substitute everything we know into the Pythagorean formula. We know that the hypotenuse length, C, is 13 inches and that the other leg length, B, is 12 inches. So, we have here the Pythagorean formula, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Substitute the given. A squared, which is unknown, plus your B is 12, that will become 12 squared, equals our C, which is hypotenuse, 13, so 13 squared. Square the 12, copy A squared plus square of 12 is 144 equals the square of 13 is 169. And then, kinanlan A squared na lang mabilin di sa right side. So what are we going to do is we use the addition property of equality or subtraction property of equality. Enable for us to eliminate the 144, we need to subtract 144. Kung nag-subtract kita sa right side, masubtract man tat sa other side. So it will become A squared plus 144 minus 144 is equal to 169, may minus man ta 144. So, ma-eliminate si 144 sa left side. Ang mabilin dira is A squared na lang equals 169 minus 144 will give you 25. And, para A na lang bilhin, we need to get the exponent 2 by getting the square root of both sides. Square root of A squared is A, and square root of 25, that will give you 5. So, the missing leg is 5 inches. Any question? Do you understand? Okay, let's have the next activity. Do the following lengths form a right triangle? Justify your answer. So this time, you need a bond paper and a ball pen. You're going to write yes if it is right triangle and no if it is not. Then, you're going to justify why yes or no. So I will give you example number 1. We have here 6, 8, and 9. So using Pythagorean theorem, we were able to justify if it is a right triangle. So since hypotenuse is the longest leg, so longest side I mean, so meaning in this figure, ang longest is 9. So let us use the formula if it is a right triangle. If we're going to square 9, 9 times 9 is 81. Dapat, if we're going to square 6 and 8, if i-add to siya, mahatag sang answer nga 81. So 6 squared is 36, 8 squared is 64. So 36 plus 64, is it equal to 81? No, ma-100 siya. So, meaning, number 1 is not a right triangle. Do you understand? Okay, are you ready? So prepare your ball pen or your pencil and then your bond paper. The answer is yes, it is a right triangle. Because if we're going to square 5, that is 25, plus the square of 12, which is 144, 144 plus 25, that will give you 169, which is the square of 13. Next, the answer is correct. Yes, it is a right triangle. 8 squared is 64 plus 6 squared is 36. That will give you 10 squared, which is 100. Any question? Next, the answer is yes, it is a right triangle. Because if we're going to square 5, that is 25, plus the square of 12, which is 144, 144 plus 25, that will give you 169, which is the square of 13. Next, the answer is correct. Yes, it is a right triangle. 8 squared is 64 plus 6 squared is 36. That will give you 10 squared, which is 100. Any question? Next, let's proceed to your seat work. Use the Pythagorean theorem to find the unknown side of the given right triangle if two of its sides are given. Note that these lengths are known as Pythagorean triples. The last one is done for you. So I want you to screenshot this, and then later you need to pass it before 8 p.m. in our Google Classroom. That is your seat work for today. Next, another seat work. Given right triangle ABC with angle B as right angle. Number 1, if A is equal to 6, C is equal to 8, you're going to find B. Number 2, find C, and number 3, find A. You are going to submit it together with the first activity. Okay. Now let's proceed to the video presentation.
Real-life uses of the Pythagorean theorem. The Pythagorean theorem is a statement in geometry that shows the relationship between the lengths of the sides of a right triangle of a triangle with one 90-degree angle. The right triangle equation is a square plus b square equals c square. Being able to find the length of a side, given the lengths of the two other sides, makes the Pythagorean theorem a useful technique for construction and navigation. Architecture and construction. The Pythagorean theorem allows you to calculate the length of the diagonal connecting the two parallel lines. This application is frequently used in architecture, woodworking, or other physical construction projects. For instance, say you are building a sloped roof. If you know the height of the roof and the length for it to cover, you can use the Pythagorean theorem to find the diagonal length of the roof slope. You can use this information to to cut properly sized beams, to support the roof. Or calculate the area of the roof that you would need to shingle. Laying out square angles. The Pythagorean theorem is also used in construction, to make sure buildings are square. A triangle whose side lengths correspond with the Pythagorean theorem, such as a 3 foot by 4 foot by 5 foot triangle, will always be a right triangle. When laying out a foundation, or constructing a square corner between two walls, construction workers will set out a triangle, from 3 strings, that correspond with these lengths. If the string lengths were measured correctly, the corner opposite the triangle's hypotenuse, will be a right angle. So the builders will know, they are constructing their walls, or foundations on the right lines. Navigation. The Pythagorean theorem is useful for two-dimensional navigation. You can use it with 2 lengths, to find the shortest distance. For instance, if you are at sea and navigating to a point, that is 300 miles north, and 400 miles west, you can use the theorem, to find the distance from your ship to that point, and calculate how many degrees to the west of north you would need to follow to reach that point. The distances north and west will be the 2 legs of the triangle, and the shortest line connecting them will be the diagonal. The same principles can be used for air navigation. For instance, a plane can use its height above the ground, and its distance from the destination airport, to find the correct place to begin a descent to that airport. Surveying. Surveying is the process by which cartographers calculate the numerical distances and heights between different points before creating a map. Because terrain is often uneven, surveyors must find ways to take measurements of distance in a systematic way. The Pythagorean theorem is used to calculate the steepness of slopes of hills or mountains. A surveyor looks through a telescope toward a measuring stick a fixed distance away, so that the telescope's line of sight and the measuring stick form a right angle. Since the surveyor knows both the height of the measuring stick and the horizontal distance of the stick from the telescope, so he can then use the theorem to find the length of the slope that covers that distance, and from that length, determine how steep it is.
Okay, so what can you say about the video? Very good. It shows the uses of Pythagorean theorem in our daily life or in our life. Now, what are the uses of Pythagorean theorem in real life? Okay, first we have the construction for engineers and architectures in making buildings, houses. We use Pythagorean theorem, no? Next is your navigation. Those navigators, they were able to know the shortest distance in one place to another using Pythagorean theorem, as well as the pilot. Then third is the surveying. Surveyors were able to make a map. Before they are going to make a map, they need to survey first the area, and then using the Pythagorean theorem, they were able to know the distance of one place to another before sila mag-ubra sang mapa. And then surveyors also were able to know the steepness of the hills and mountains using Pythagorean theorem also. Now let's proceed to the group activity. The group activity is divided according to your major. So the theater arts group will make a scenario that shows the importance of Pythagorean theorem in our life. So pwede ka makaobra sang recorded video biskan sa inyo lang balay kag i-compile. And next, sa visual arts group, you're going to draw anything around you that shows right angle. You compile it also. And music group, make a song related to Pythagorean theorem. dance group, you're going to make a dance performance or dance steps related to right angle or Pythagorean theorem. You can make a video and compile it also. And for letter E, creative writing group, make a poem that shows the importance of Pythagorean theorem in our life. And you are going to submit it before 12 midnight tomorrow. Okay, this time let us wrap it up, our discussion for today, which is about Pythagorean theorem. So any triangle that has a right angle is called a right triangle. The two sides that form the right angle, A and B, are called legs, and the side opposite the right angle, C, is called the hypotenuse. So for any right triangle, the sum of the squares of the legs of the triangle is equal to the square of the hypotenuse. That is, A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. In words, the theorem states that leg squared plus leg squared is equal to hypotenuse squared. Do you understand? Any question? So for your quiz, you're going to use the Pythagorean theorem to find x in each triangle. So please screenshot it and submit it later in our Google Classroom. And also for your assignment, follow up and then study how to prove the conditions for right triangles using Pythagorean theorem and how to solve problems applying the Pythagorean theorem. That would be our next topic. So for your seat work, your quizzes, and for your assignment, you need to pass it later before 8 p.m. in our Google Classroom. And for your group activity, you need to pass it tomorrow before 12 noon. That's all for today. Thank you for listening, and I hope you understand or you learn something.